Bezimrat Vayli Lishua Ozi Bezimrat Vayli Lishua Ozi Bezimrat
At this hour, Israel stands as one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. A people unafraid, unvanquished, says to God, "This people you have formed still lives to tell your praise, still lives to share this teaching with our youth. Our ancient journey has not reached its end. The faith implanted at our people's birth is realized from age to age, our sacred covenant." This people, few in number, ventured forth to carve a lonely path through the wilderness, with dreams of vines and fig trees, justice in the gates, the land at peace. And still we make our way across the desert. This people you have formed still lives to walk before you. Exiled once to Babylon, we learned the unity of God. A second time dispersed by Rome, we learn that humankind is one. Hear, O Israel, the call still sounds. Eternity is ever present in your midst, a heritage of sacred purpose in your heart. Your past tells a story for all peoples. Your future holds a promise still unfolding. At this hour, Israel stands as one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. We look at one another, and we know who we are. We look to our Creator, and we know our strength. In pursuit of truth, this people lives, to serve the Most High for the sake of life. Behind us, pain and glory, before us, holy work. Timeless words command us, toward eternity we gaze. We rise now, neither body or spirit, for the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach, ulfi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ulfi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula libnei bneihem, Lema'an shemo be'ahava. Zochreinu lechayim, Melech Hofetz b'chayim, V'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chayim, Kotvenu b'sefer ha'chayim, Lema'ancha Elohim chayim. Zochreinu lechayim, Melech Hofetz b'chayim, V'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chayim, Kotvenu b'sefer ha'chayim, Lema'ancha Elohim chayim. Mem lechozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, Morid hatar. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim merofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al givorot, Umidom melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua. Mi chamocha el harachamim, Zocher yetzurav לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך. וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושיבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש
Please be seated. I don't want to beg forgiveness or seek absolution, a poor petitioner before the throne. If a power flows through the universe, if some force or higher consciousness infuses all of life, does not notice my misdeeds. Said Elisha the heretic, Rabbi, there is no justice, there is no judge. No one to hear my confession, no one to grant me mercy, no one to steal my fate. Still the words of prayer are in my mouth. Still the wrongs I commit are on my mind. And still this yearning in my heart to make things right. Breathe free, be clean again. Our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people, and you are our God. We are your children, you are our parent. We are the people who serve you, and you call us to serve. We are your community, and you are our portion. We are your legacy, and you are our purpose. We are your flock, and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard, and you watch over us. We are your work, and you are our maker. We are your beloved, and you are our lover. We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish. We are your people, and you reign over us. We offer you our words, and you offer us yours. So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Ki anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu, anu nachalatecha ve'ata goreinu, anu nachalatecha ve'ata goraleinu, anu tzonecha ve'ata ro'enu, anu karmecha ve'ata notreinu, anu rayatecha ve'ata dodeinu.
Who among us is blameless? Who shall say, I have not erred, I have not wronged or sinned? We abuse, we brutalize, we covet, we deceive, we enslave, we feud, we gossip, we humiliate, we injure, we judge unfairly, we kill, we lie, we manipulate, we neglect, we ostracize, we plagiarize, we quarrel, we rage, we shame, we turn away, we undermine, we vilify, we waste, we exploit the earth. We yearn too much for yesterday and too easily forget Zion. Our sins are an alphabet of woe. Help us, Holy One, to follow your ways of integrity, justice, and love. Teach us to seek forgiveness with humility and an open heart. Hakarat HaTov, what gives us strength to pursue goodness? Awareness of the good that is around us, decent, generous acts that remind us of what is possible here and now in this world of moral ambiguity. So our sages taught, one mitzvah inspires another. Thus we acknowledge and celebrate those who do their best on the job, whatever their level of pay, and those who run an honest business, who don't cut corners, falsify, or lie. Those who labor in obscurity to help others or advance the frontiers of truth. Those who add beauty to the world through the arts or through unselfish deeds. Patient teachers who see the potential in shy or difficult students. Students who focus on learning, not just good marks, and earn their grades fairly without cheating. Athletes who exemplify good sportsmanship and self-discipline, all those who use their wealth to benefit society and the greater good. Those in high places who resist the corruption of power, whistleblowers, alert to malfeasance who bravely sound the alarm, public servants who do the people's business with integrity, politicians who place conscience above popularity, those who travel far from home to defend our country from foes, those who keep our communities safe, who run into fires to save lives, parents who care selflessly for ill or troubled children, children who give time and love to frail and aging parents, loving spouses who remain faithful, loyal friends who stand fast in times of trouble. May their mitzvot inspire us, inspire our own. May we find the strength to emulate their honor. Let us take joy in remembering that goodness still abides. We rise now in either body or spirit for Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, we join generations of Jews who have sought your compassion.
Shekhinah Imenu, nurturing presence.
Makor Binatenu, source of insight and understanding.
Sur Chayenu, unweathered stone steadying strength beneath us.
Yedid Nafshotenu, intimate soul companion.
Chonenu Va'anenu, we open to you in self-examination. Grace us and answer us. Be present with us and inspire us. Accompany us. Assure us we are not alone.
Gein banu ma'asim. We approach you empty-handed. Our accomplishments set aside. Rather than defend ourselves, we confess we are broken-hearted at our failures, and our world remains unrepaired.
Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Embrace us generously as we expose our errors. Be our example. Hold us with abundant love. Turn us to face the world with justice and compassion.
V'hoshienu. Save us.
We join our strengths to yours as we offer ourselves fully to life ahead. Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefanecha. Almighty and merciful, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Imanu Leman Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu Zachor Ki Fana Anachnu. Avinu Malkeinu, remember we are but dust of the earth. Avinu Malkeinu Tehi Hasha'ah Hazot Sha'at Rachamim Ve'ed Ratzon Milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let this hour in your presence be a time of compassion and acceptance. Avinu Malkeinu Chamo Aleinu Va'al Olaleinu V'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Laman Tevochim Al Yehudecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those slain for their devotion to you. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Laman Harogim Al Shem Kodechecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those killed because they were Jews. Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Laman Be'ai Be'esh U'B'mayim Al Kidosh Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed. Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed. Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu V'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim.
Please be seated. Aleinu, ours the duty. Ours the duty to listen, and ours the duty to praise. Ours the duty to respond to what we hear, to raise questions, and build houses of study in which to ask them. To praise the Creator for creating, to praise the Creator for rest, to praise the God of Torah for the challenge of Torah, to praise the God of eternity for every hour, every day, to plant and build, to seek peace and pursue it. Ours the duty to do justice, ours the duty to be Israel, to fix the broken, to open doors of hope, to bow before a commanding power that speaks to us from Sinai, from history, from deep within the heart. Hear, O Israel, it is not your duty to complete the work, but you may not turn away. We rise now in either body or spirit for the great Aleinu on page 432.
עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו בהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומונים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. And so, Adonai our God, we look to you, hoping soon to behold the splendor of your power revealed, a world free of idolatry and false gods, a world growing more perfect through divine governance, a world in which all human beings make known your name, while those who do evil turn toward you instead. As the prophet announced, the Eternal shall be sovereign over all the earth. On that day, the Eternal shall be one, and God's name shall be one.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ביום ההוא יהיה bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
We continue with Ela Ezkara, These I Remember. In the prayer book of the High Holy Days, which evolved during the Middle Ages, Ela Ezkara is a moment of poignant identification with Jews of the past. Through the poetry of lament, it recalls the martyrdom of 10 rabbis executed by Rome in the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era, and it venerates those who were martyred. Rabbi Yishmael, the high priest, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, prince of Israel, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Hanania ben Teradion, Rabbi Chutzpit, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Rabbi Hanina ben Chaninai, Rabbi Yeshivav the scribe, Rabbi Yehuda ben Dama, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. As it is written in the Book of Lamentations, for these I weep. My eyes flow like streams of water, for a comforting presence is far from me, the one who restores my soul. As contemporary Reformed Jews, we also search for meaning in the chaos. We honor those who have died in defense of their ideals, those innocent lives lost to hatred, and those who valiantly strive to make the world a better place. Our ancestors believed that death atones for sin, and so saw a natural connection between martyrdom and Yom Kippur. But we know that life is not always so simple. Why do good people die? Why do decent people suffer? These are the questions that come to mind as we fast and repent each year during this holy time. Memory is central to our history and theology as a Jewish people. Yet every generation tells the story in its own way. We frame the themes of life, death, and remembrance differently from our forebears. We turn to human beings who lived in the more familiar but no less treacherous terrain of modernity and responded to extraordinary events in ways worthy of sacred remembrance. We recall men and women who responded, Hineni, here I am. They gave their lives while struggling to right wrongs, make peace, and save others from humiliation, harm, or death. And so we use this day in the service of memory not to solve life's unanswerable questions, but to remember those who made a difference and pursued justice at all costs. We remember those who perished doing what they thought was right, and we are inspired by their actions. We carry our experiences from this day into the year to come. We dedicate ourselves anew to living meaningful lives and making our world a better place. On Yom Kippur, we choose life. Therefore, choose life. Therefore, choose life that you and your children may live. The prayers of Yom Kippur set us on the path to becoming better human beings. Today, let us learn from the lives of those who walked that path before us. They chose to affirm God by their courage and by risking their own lives to make this world worthy of God's divine presence. Ela Ezkara, these I will remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy, and these are their names. Rabbi Regina Jonas, Harvey Milk, Karen Tendler, Michael Levin, victims of the Parkland school shooting, Daniel Pearl, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, victims of hate-inspired terror. Rabbi Regina Jonas. Regina Jonas was born in Berlin in 1902. Early on, she noticed her rabbinic tendencies. When she matriculated in university, she studied women's roles in traditional Judaism, combining a halachic line of argument with a modern attitude. As World War II began, Regina worked for the German Jewish community, providing pastoral care and leading services. In 1942, she and her mother were deported to Theresienstadt, even though she worked as a rabbi, preaching and counseling. On October 12, 1944, she and her mother were deported to Auschwitz and killed. Eila Eskara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls out to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in your hands. Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was born in Woodmere, New York. He moved to San Francisco and opened Castro Camera, putting his life and work right in the heart of the city's gay community. It was there that Milk found his voice as a leader and activist, and after multiple attempts, he finally won a seat on the San Francisco City County Board in 1977. His inauguration meant that he was not only the city's first openly gay officer, but he was also one of the first openly gay individuals to be elected to office in the United States. He was murdered by Dan White in 1978. Friends of Milk commented that he wasn't a religious Jew, but he was always proud of being Jewish, and that his sense of being Jewish played a role for him in his involvement in civil rights. Indeed, as with the feminist movement, Jews played leading roles in the early days of the gay rights movement and continue to do so. Eila Eskara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls out to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in your hands. Karen Tendler and Michael Levin. Karen Tendler and Michael Levin were both soldiers in the Israeli Defense Forces who went above and beyond their call of duty. Sergeant Major Karen Tendler, aged 26, was the first female flight mechanic in the IDF and the first woman to lose her life on active duty. After entering the military, Karen chose a male-dominated profession and became a helicopter flight mechanic. Following her completion of military service, Karen proceeded to study law at university while on standby for the Air Force Reserves. She was killed engaging in active combat against Hezbollah. Michael Levin was a lone soldier, an American who decided to move to Israel and serve in the IDF. He was in the Paratroopers Brigade and was killed while fighting in the Second Lebanon War. His death had a major impact in Israel. Thousands attended his funeral, and the Lone Soldier Center was established in his memory. It provides basic necessities, as well as physical and emotional support to lone soldiers before, during, and after their IDF service. Eila Eskara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls out to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in your hands. Victims of the Parkland school shooting. On February 14, 2018, a gunman opened fire with a semi-automatic rifle at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, killing 7 people and injuring 17 others. Among the victims were 5 Jewish people. Witnesses identified the gunman as a 19-year-old former student at the school. He had been training with white supremacist groups. This killing spree is the deadliest high school shooting in United States history, surpassing the Columbine High School massacre. About 40 children each day are shot as a result of gun violence in America. Along with those Jewish people who perished in the Parkland shooting, we remember all the Jewish and non-Jewish lives that have been impacted and lost due to firearms. We remember those innocent students who perished in school shootings and acts of mass violence. Eila Eskara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in your hands.
Daniel Pearl was born not too far from here in Princeton, New Jersey, to an Iraqi Jewish mother and a father who was an Israeli of Polish descent. He went to Stanford and became a journalist, traveling domestically, and then becoming involved in international affairs. Daniel and his wife, Marianne, settled in Mumbai. In 2002, Daniel was kidnapped by a militant group calling itself the National Movement for the Restoration of Pakistani Sovereignty. The group claimed Pearl was a spy and sent the United States a range of demands. 9 days later, the terrorists killed him. Shortly after Daniel's death, his parents founded the Daniel Pearl Foundation. The foundation's mission is to promote cross-cultural understanding through journalism, music, and dialogue. Eile Eskara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their death, their legacy is in your hand. James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. Michael Schwerner and Andrew Goodman were both Jewish men from New York City. In the early 1960s, Schwerner became active in the civil rights movement in Manhattan. He and his wife Rita were then assigned to volunteer with the National Congress of Racial Equality in Mississippi. James Chaney was a local youth who worked with them. During that time, many volunteers, mostly college students and young adults, had been recruited to work on registering African Americans to vote. Andrew Goodman was another such volunteer who had been training and developing civil rights strategies. The Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission, a taxpayer-funded agency, was strongly opposed to integration in civil rights, paid spies to identify citizens suspected of activism, especially people from the North and West who entered the state. James, Andrew, and Michael were investigating the burning of a local church. They were arrested, released, and then stopped by KKK members who shot and killed them. Today we continue to strive to bind ourselves together in the quest for racial equality. Eile Eskara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy is in your hands. Victims of hate-inspired terror. On October 27th, 2018, there was a mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The shooter, who had made anti-Semitic posts online, killed 11 worshipers, including Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Benowitz, Cecil Rosenthal, David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Irving Unger, and Melvin Wax, who was a cousin of one of our congregants, Stu Cohn. 6 other worshipers were wounded. They were robbed of their lives merely because they wanted to join their community in worship on a Shabbat morning. It was the deadliest attack on the Jewish people in United States history. Unfortunately, this was not an isolated incident of hate. In August of 2017, the infamous Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, ennobled many white supremacists and neo-Nazis to publicly declare and demonstrate their views and opinions. The rally began with marchers chanting, "Jews will not replace us," and ended with counter-protester Heather Heyer dead because she was run over by a car. She was another victim of hate-inspired terror. Since then, anti-Semitic attacks have more than doubled in the United States. This streak of hate and terror has also impacted many other groups, including Muslims and African Americans. There have been vicious and hateful attacks in houses of worship, on our streets, and even in people's homes. Too many have been killed because of the color of their skin or religious background. We remember those whose last moments have been full of fear because they were innocent and simply trying to go about their lives. We remember all those who have been killed merely because of who they are, what they look like, or how they worship. Eile Eskara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember. Their lives, their death, their legacy is in your hands. May the memories of all these tzaddikim, all these upright and just people, continue as a blessing to us. May we remember them alongside all the others, Jews and those of other communities, who died for the sake of justice, compassion, and peacefulness. May we look forward to a time when we can say that no more names need be added to the rolls of martyrs, because no one will be killed among those who act for peace and justice. At a peace rally in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by a Jewish radical opponent of his peace plan. In his pocket was a copy of the song Shir LaShalom, a song for peace. May our remembering of all these martyrs help bring this world closer to a time when no other names shall ever be added.
תנו לשמש לעלות, לבוקר להאיר, הזעקה שבתפילות אותנו לא חזיר. אשר קבע נרות ואף ענית אדמה, וכי מר לא יאירו, לא יחזיזו לך. איש אותנו לא ישיב, מבור תחתית אפל, כאן לא יועילו לו שירי הניצחון, ולא שירי הלל. לכן רק שירו שיר לשלום, אל תלחשו תפילה. לכן רק שירו שיר לשלום, בצעקה גדולה.
Ela Ezkara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in your hands. We continue with Seder Kriyat Torah, our service for the reading of Torah, on page 328. It shall come to pass in the fullness of time that the mountain of the house of God shall be established as the highest mountain, and raised above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. Then many people shall say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Eternal, to the house of the God of Jacob." And they shall say, Teach us your ways, that we may walk in your paths. We give thanks today for a Torah of life, the way of kindness, mercy, and truth. May compassion be our source of sustenance now as in our people's past. May our souls withstand times of crisis, and our hearts the inclination to evil. May the covenant of Abraham and Sarah strengthen our will to do what is right. May the qualities of mercy and goodness, love and forgiveness flow through our lives. And let us be strong in a perilous world. Let us open our hearts to the path of Torah.
ויהי בנצוע אהרון, ויאמר משה, קומה אדוני, ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה. דבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. אחד אלוהינו גדול אדוננו קדוש ונורא שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד. כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש.
We continue now with our Torah reading. Ariana Kravitz and Sarah Silver will be chanting from the book of Leviticus, which contains some of the very first instructions about how to observe Yom Kippur. And for the honor of the Aliyah, Mike Greenberg, Reggie Roth, Jeff Roth, Philip Peters, Joanne Stern, Elise Roth, Helene Greenberg, Mickey Landis, Sarah Kahn, Howard Firestone, and Malcolm Bush.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim.
V'nasan lanu es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai
Noten
HaTorah.
Amen. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael. V'amarta alechem kedoshim tiyu. Ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Ish imo v'aviv tira'u. V'et shabtotai tishmoru. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Al tifnu el ha'elilim ve'lohei masecha lo ta'asu lachem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. V'chi tizbechu zavach shelamim l'Adonai lirtzonchem tizbechu bayom zivchachem yayachel umimacharat v'chanotar ad yom hashlishi be'esh yisarev ve'im he'achol yayachel bayom hashishi piguhu lo yiratzeh Ve'ochlav avono yisa ki et kodesh Adonai hilel v'nichreta hanefesh hahi me'amecha. Amen. Uvekutzrechem et ketzir artechem lo techale pe'at sadecha liktzor veleke ketzircha lo telaked v'karmecha lo teolel uferet karmecha lo telaket La'ani velager ta'azov otam ani Adonai Elohehem Lo tiknovu velo tachachashu velo tishakru ish ba'amito velo tishve'u bishmi la shaker v'chilalta et shem Elohecha ani Adonai lo tashok et reacha velo tikzol lo talin pe'ulat sahir itcha ad boker Lo tekalel cheresh velifnei iver lo titain mishol ve'aretam Elohecha ani Adonai lo tasu avel b'mishpat lo tisa f'nei dal v'lo tedar p'nei gadol b'tzedek tishpot amitecha lo telech rachil be'amecha Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa ani Adonai. Lo tisna et achicha blivavecha chochiach et amitecha velo tisa alav chet. Lo tikom velo titor et bnei amecha ve'ahavta lo re'echa kamocha. Ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu.
Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. La 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 Lie, 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 la la lie, 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 la 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 lie. Ya da die, 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 ya da da die, 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 ya die, 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 ya die, 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 ya da da die, die, die. Ya die, ya die, da 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 die. Ya die, 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 ya da da die, die, die. Ya die, ya die, ya die, die, die.
Please be seated. It is an honor now to call up one of our past presidents, Malcolm Bush, for our Haftarah portion this afternoon. He will be reading from the book of Jonah.
Blessed are you, our God eternal, supreme power of the universe, who called forth noble prophets to speak the truth. Blessed are you, God of eternity, who delights in the Torah, in Moses, God's servant, in Israel, God's people, and in prophets of truth and right. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah a second time. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and call out to it the proclamation that I tell you. So Jonah got up and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Adonai. Now Nineveh was a great city of God, 3 days' journey across. And Jonah started out and made his way into the city, the distance of a one-day walk. And he called out and said, 40 more days and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God, and they proclaimed a fast and they put on sackcloth from the richest to the poorest. And word reached the king of Nineveh, and he got up from his throne, took off his robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he cried out and said in Nineveh, by decree of the king and his nobles, no person or beast, of flock or herd, shall taste anything. They shall not graze, and they shall not drink water. They shall be covered with sackcloth, person and beast, and shall call loudly to God. Let all turn back from their evil ways and from the violence which is in their hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent, turn back from the heat of anger, so that we do not perish. God saw what they did, how they were turning back from their evil ways, and God relented from the evil plan for them and did not carry it out. Blessed are you, our God eternal, supreme power of the universe, rock of all ages, source of justice in all generations, God in whom faithfulness abides, whose word is deed, whose every utterance speaks truth and righteousness. Our God eternal, for all these gifts we thank you and bless you. Torah, worship, the books of the prophets, and this day of atonement given to us for the sake of pardon and forgiveness, that we might make amends with honor and dignity. Let all life bless your name continually to the end of time, so that your truth will endure forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign, who forgives our failings and pardons the failings of your people, the house of Israel. You banish our guilt from year to year. You reign in majesty over all the earth. You sanctify the people Israel in the day of atonement.
We continue now on page 352 as we return our Torah to the Ark. Yehalu et Shem Adonai kinizgav shemo levado. All praise God's name, for God's name alone is truly sublime. Please rise.
Eitz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba vetomcheha meushar deracheha v'chol netivotecha shalom shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha
Shana Tova and Good Yontiv once again. I know there are people who are joining us from all over the country and, as a message from earlier told me, all across the world. If you are joining us and don't get our regular emails or notices or links and would like to, please go to AEMT, as in Anshe Emeth Memorial Temple, AEMTnews.com. That's AEMTnews.com, and you can put in your email and you can start to get our newsletters and links and classes and stuff like that. Just a few words about what the rest of this afternoon will look like. We have an interim program which is entitled How Judaism Has Impacted My Life. Customarily, we ask 4 congregants or so to come into the amphitheater, and everybody crowds in after our late service, and they tell stories about how Judaism has impacted their life. This year we'll be doing that again with only 2 guests. You will be able to be a part of our interim service by going to aemt.net and seeing it streamed live through there, or available on Facebook Live. Those are the 2 ways that you'll be able to get our interim service. The interim service is not available on YouTube. That'll be at 3 o'clock. At 4:30 today, our Yizkor Ne'ilah service will begin. That will be available on either YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or our temple website, aemt.net. A word about our Yizkor service. It is a beautiful service where we light candles and give reflective liturgy on what it means to love and to have lost. It's not just for an individual who has lost somebody, but for a community that is suffering a loss. And this year we think about the 200,000 who have died because of COVID on top of all the other losses we have experienced. I always get this question: my parents are still alive, should I come to Yizkor or should I come after? The choice is up to yours. But as an entire planet, we are mourning a pandemic, and this might be an appropriate service to come to if you want to share in that communal loss, or would like to not necessarily share in the loss, but to help lift each other up in that loss. If, however, you would like to not be a part of Yizkor because it's not your tradition or your minhag, then you want to log back into our service at around 5:05, 5:10, and that's when we're going to be switching to Ne'ilah. Now, even though we refer to these as 2 separate services, Yizkor and Ne'ilah, they are being streamed live together as one whole of Yizkor and Ne'ilah. So just go to aemt.net, Facebook Live, or YouTube to see those services at the appropriate time. 4:30 is when Yizkor begins. 5:05, 5:10 is when Ne'ilah begins, which is a beautiful way of concluding our Yontiv services. Before you log on at 4:30, if you have a Havdalah set at home, get it ready, because after we blow the shofars, we're going to go into a Havdalah, thus ending Yom Kippur and moving into a brand new year. And if you would like to light candles and sing along with us at home, I invite you to do so. You'll know it's time for Havdalah because you're going to hear one of the biggest shofar blasts you've heard, where we've brought back all of our teens who blew for Rosh Hashanah to string together all of their Tekiah Gedolahs into one big shofar. Normally I'd be telling you that at 5:45, if you've got a little kid, you want to bring them to Reitman Hall to meet with Sarah Levine. She'll bring them in to stand on the bima at 5:45. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that, but you'll be able to still hear a tremendous Tekiah Gedolah at the close of our services. So if you have little kids, you're going to want to tune in somewhere around 5:40, 5:45. You'll hear the great big Tekiah Gedolah, and then we're going to go into Havdalah, which will be another great thing for kids to be a part of. I want to thank everybody who has been a part of our high holiday services this year. It has been a tremendous effort, and for me, standing up here looking at a camera and an empty congregation, I have known through all of you that this room, while physically empty, is spiritually full of all of you. And it's been great to worship with you these times and to remember that our community is more than just these 4 walls of the sanctuary, but extend out into the larger world. I want to wish you all Gemar Chatima Tova. May you be inscribed for a book in the life well lived, and may today be a meaningful fast for all of us. We conclude our service now with the singing of Return Again.
Return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to what you are, return to who you are, return to where you are born, and return again, return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you